Greetings from the Hypnotic World Epicenter, Toronto, Canada. To all of you who ride the storm with us, the hypnotic storm that is, I'm Chris Thompson. This is the Brain Software Podcast. This is episode 250. Today, NLP and hypnosis trainer Mike Mandel and I are going to discuss a ton of cool stuff, so stay with us, but here's the disclaimer.
Disclaimer. Let's cut right to the chase here and say Loochie. Okay, Loochie. Yeah, I said Loochie. Any happier? Of course you are.
Of course you are.
Oh, Scro, how's it going, Pouch? It's me, Dave Ambrose, people's physicist, speaking from way up here in level 42, man. Guess what, Bag? I just saw that film Oppenheimer, and it even referenced my nemesis, Niels Bohr. Bottom line is this. The Bohr atom model may have, say, electrons orbit the nucleus all at fixed energy levels, but so what? For me, that's just an opportunity to say, duh, and call him a dick again. But whatever happened to that old tranquility we used to know, Pouch?
We are not dicks! So join me in welcoming to the future home of the Port Perry Large Hadron Collider, a man who dwells in hypnotic lavender mist, the soldier of fortune of the Ericksonian legacy, and the Keith Richards of hypnosis, ladies and gentlemen, Mike Mandel.
Chris, I reached way back. My back cracked.
Oh, that was
awesome.
good. Do you need the vertebrae replacement tool? Sometimes
I
I
think
say
I'm
that
fine.
when I'm playing volleyball after.
I could have used it last night, but I'm all right
Who's
now.
got the vertebrae replacement tool? All right, so we're going to...
Guys,
first of all...
250.
250 episodes.
250 freaking podcasts. That's unreal.
We only do them now, and we've been consistent for a while, every 2 weeks, which
Lazy.
works for us. We are not going to go weekly. We do them every 2 weeks. For a while, we were every 3. Sometimes years ago, we slipped into, it's
Once
been a month. And we haven't. We've been pretty consistent, so that's good. But 250 episodes, that's a bit unusual for A, most podcasts don't go that long.
True.
B, most who do don't take, I think it's been over 10 years now. We started this podcast in like 2012, I
Are
think.
you serious?
It was after I got home from that trip to France in 2011. I think it was 2012.
Right before your testicular surgery.
I think we've been doing this for like 12 years.
That's insanity.
And so interestingly, yeah, we've only done 250 episodes in that long, but they're awesome. So that just makes it awesome and better. We want to, before we even go into the three think tank words and the content for this, first of all, this is going to be, let's do a little teaser on what we're talking about today. So we've come up with a few topics that are going to be interesting. We want to talk about hypnosis when people say, oh, well, how can I use hypnosis to forget my ex, i.e. bad emotional things in their lives? We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about a concept of backfilling. You want to mention that one real quick?
We're going to talk about using the RAS.
We're going to talk about, using the reticular activating system in your life.
And here it is. This is our friend Freddy Jacquin, hypnotist extraordinaire. His amazing new book. It's called The Exquisite Art of Hypnosis and Hypnotherapy. Check out this cover. It's pretty wild. This is a great book. It's a bestseller on Amazon already. And I love it because it draws from great teachers. He's put a smorgasbord of amazing stuff together. Laurie Hammond, Anthony Jacquin, Carl Smith, James Tripp, Mike Mandel. It goes on and on and on. Get this book. We love the guy, and we want to promote him. Freddy's stuff is awesome, although he does call me Mikey Mandel, but he noticed and I didn't, and he said it's going to be fixed on the second imprint. So
beautiful thing about
great book.
Books these days is if you do notice errors, you just update the file.
Yes.
And it's print on demand at Amazon these days, so it's pretty cool. Okay, so we're going to talk about those things. Before we get on to that, we should celebrate that it's
Are we celebrating
250 episodes, which is amazing.
That's crazy.
We're also celebrating that we just finished recording the audio track, the raw audio for your third track in the Mandel trilogy, which is called
Rendlesham.
And
Journey to the Castle, Sidonia and Rendlesham. There's going to be 7 in the series, even though we're calling it a trilogy. And you're going to have to hear this. So it's recorded. It's going to go to post-production pretty soon.
Yeah, we'll get Ross to work on it, and it's going to be amazing.
By the time this goes out, it'll probably be done.
Hopefully, yeah. He's done Journey to the Castle with us. He's done Sidonia.
Yeah, Ross is
so
awesome.
For the thousands of you who have inside of the Mike Mandel Hypnosis members area, the Mandel trilogy, And there's one of them says coming soon, and it's grayscale. Well, that's about to be completed.
Yes,
and
it
we will
is.
slot in Rendlesham.
We'll slot it in the slaughter.
Okay, so let's get on to our 3 think tank words and then our feature content.
I will read the words and we'll get you going on them.
All right.
All directly drawn from Sabo Bukacek's think tank, the actual one. These are the 3 random words it generated. Mangle and sputter and sideways. Bring it on, Chris. Bring us your A game here.
Mangle. Well, obviously, mangle, something that is mangled. Something
it's a word you don't apply to the second word, testicles.
Thank you, exactly. You don't want to mangle testicles.
No.
That would not be fun until the laundry blooms.
Just saying, of course, everything changes.
I suppose mangle is a state of not what we want. Therefore,
It's the worst definition of mangle I've ever heard. It's a state of not what we want.
Something starts in its original form, like a box that you buy something in, and then you must mangle it to put it into the recycle bin to get rid of it. You don't typically want to mangle things, so maybe we need to think about what areas of someone's life is currently mangled and can be untangled, and straightened out, and put back into shape.
I like that. And let me bring in, coming in from left field here, another aspect of mangle. When I grew up, when I was just a lad in Canada, my mom had a washing machine that had a mangle on it.
What is a mangle?
And it was a round washing machine. The mangle was 2 rollers that you'd feed the wet laundry stuff through, and it would squeeze the water out, so then you could hang it on your line because nobody had a dryer back
So
then.
the water would sputter out.
There was an emergency release thing you could hit that would pop the mangle open in case your freaking hand went into it. So as a kid, I was always terrified of the mangle, even though I couldn't reach it. I was always
it really your hand going in there that you were concerned about?
Or was it something else entirely? So what about sputter?
Sputter. I think
It's what you do if your hand's caught in the
yes,
mangle.
sputter. Sputter makes me think of when, let's say, if you're trying to pump water through a hose or something, and it's not quite primed, so it's like air and water, just sort of sputtering out.
Now that's interesting because I was sputtering this morning because I have that voice training thing that you put in a bottle of water and it's medical silicone.
Okay.
And you're sputtering, singing into it, and it makes the water sputter.
Well, as long as you're not sputtering into the
My
microphone
voice
right
is
now.
shot, so clearly the thing's not working yet.
All right.
But what about sideways?
So sideways. Yeah, sideways. I think you think about something just disoriented, not oriented in the right way.
Right, something that's gone sideways,
or looking from another perspective, perhaps.
Okay, so it could be a good thing, something going sideways. When I think of sideways, I think of that wonderful Sidewinder snake, and of course the Sidewinder missile for short range. But the sideways motion, a Sidewinder snake goes sideways. Have you ever seen it?
No.
It's freaking weird. It scare the crap out of you, even if you're not scared of snakes. You're sort of like, oh, there's a snake over there, but it's going the other way. Oh no, hang on, it's moving sideways towards me fast.
I'd find myself sputtering and then suddenly mangled.
Yeah, put the snake through the mangle. It would cure that pretty quick. Okay.
All right, so we'll see if we work these in.
Play in this. Why?
Okay.
Because we can.
All right.
And failing that, if we get lost, I'll just read an extended section from Freddy's book, and we'll provide some quality
what a
information
hefty book
here.
too.
It's a
So
nice
yeah,
book.
Freddy's awesome, and of course Anthony's awesome as well.
Anthony.
Yeah, I said Anthony. Yeah.
You said Anthony.
No, I didn't.
Anthony.
No, I didn't. I said Anthony.
Well,
rewind it and you check.
Yeah,
you guys can check
will
in the
hear. He said
comment in
Anthony.
the YouTube. I said Anthony.
Second time
All
he did, first time he didn't.
Next, we've got Architecture of Hypnosis. By the time this episode gets published, our May class is basically sold out right now as it stands. So I'm sure that by the time this goes out, the May class will be sold out unless we have any last-minute cancellations. And you could check with us just by emailing support@MikeMandelHypnosis.com. But go to the website, click on the events tab or the events link in the nav, and then you can find out about the May class, which runs May 27 through 31. It's 5 days in Toronto. It's awesome. And if it is sold out, which it should be, because it basically is now.
Within a few.
I just signed the contract yesterday and got it returned to me.
Nice.
The November 11th through November 15th class will be opening that for registration pretty much
Guys,
now.
I'm telling you, people come from around the world to Toronto to train with us at our great new location, too. This is the first time we got someone coming from Hungary.
Yeah, we just
got
looked at a
someone
list.
coming from Poland.
Poland, Hungary.
2 from Norway.
Yeah, Norway.
1 from Hong Kong.
Yes.
And we've had mainland China. We've had numerous from Australia, New Zealand.
I think we
We've
have
had Czech
Romania
Republic,
as well.
Romania. And we've had France and Germany and Belgium.
UK,
It's just
Canada, US.
crazy. Mexico. Every continent except Antarctica. They come to Toronto to train with us.
That's right.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to push anyone. 71
We
years
haven't had
old in
anybody
2
come
months,
from
could be dead.
Australia
I'm gonna
in a
come out.
little while. So if you are listening from down under, come to Toronto, come hang out. In November, I guess it's, a little unfortunate.
We
'cause
need
it's
Dr. Michael Goldblatt
your
to come
summer.
back
Yeah.
with Aparna, and they were just lovely medical doctors and
Yeah.
fantastic.
I still
Come back.
remember when we had about 40 people in the class, and 6 of them were from Australia.
crazy,
that
wasn't
one time, and most of them didn't know each other, so it was just
Well, they did by the end
random.
of the week because it's a fun week.
Really
Let's-
cool.
What are you going to talk about here?
All right.
We'd mentioned Freddy's newest book. This whole thing of can you hypnotize me to forget my ex? Now,
Right. Okay,
for
so let's
years it
spend
was,
some time.
Can you hypnotize me to quit smoking? I get so sick of people saying that I started coming up with a stupid answer. No, but if you're a non-smoker, I can get you up to 4 packs a day, just like that, and I promise you'll be hooked for life.
Okay, yeah. Let me just clarify on why we're talking about this in this podcast, in this episode, because quite often over the years and fairly recently, we heard it in our community where a client had come into one of our students and asked for this. So we thought this happens often enough. We should talk about it. And it is the situation where somebody goes, "Look, I broke up with so-and-so. I'm not in this relationship anymore. It ended badly. I have these horrible emotions about it. And as a result, I just want to forget about it. Can you hypnotize me to forget about the ex?"
Right.
And that is never the right way to handle it.
Well, no, it's not ecological. But before we even go into the stuff on this, how's my voice?
Much better.
Thank you.
Here,
But before
water.
we got into this, on the way here, I was listening to a song which many years ago I determined, and this is from Devin Townsend, who's Canadian, with his band Ocean Machine. He's also a strapping young lad and a bunch of other bands. He did a song called Life. And you've
I
heard
love
it.
that
It's
song.
a fabulous
I
song.
love
So
that
up,
song.
so positive. He's such an interesting guitarist. And at the time when I first heard it, I remember saying, this is the perfect song to play after a breakup with someone.
Oh.
It just gets you moving again and going next. And so listen to that song, Life, by Devin Townsend, or the album Biomech by Ocean Machine. Same guys. Life is a phenomenal song if you just had a breakup. Now bring us back to the material.
Yes, so I love that song, by the way.
freezing
We're going to
down
listen
here,
to
man.
that when we drive to lunch today.
Yes, we are.
So the whole idea, we get the idea. It's, well, can you help me forget about the ex? They're asking for essentially amnesia. Now, if we just analyze this, the exact way the client is requesting services, they are saying, put me in a hypnotic trance and give me instructions that when I come back from that hypnotic experience, I won't even know who that person is. I won't think about that person. I'll have no memory of the relationship, and all will be dandy. And in the past, we've had similar situations where people have suggested, this isn't so much coming from the client,
Right.
but from other hypnotists who have dealt with things like smoking cessation, going, oh, the way to deal with that is to have the person hypnotized to forget that they ever were a smoker. And that's also not a good way to handle smoking cessation. Now let's talk about why.
Well,
let's start with the smoking piece
Let's
first,
do
and then
that.
we'll come back to the
Without
relationships.
invoking Charles Tebbets, as you can imagine, I'm so tempted to. Like beyond anything you can imagine. In fact, if I'm not careful, I still might say it. But okay.
ChatGPT told you that you were being juvenile.
Did it?
Yeah, didn't it? When you asked, you were.
Oh, that,
yeah.
that's right. With using
One night you were just having a conversation.
Colloquialism, yeah. Anyway, bottom line is the ecology of having someone forget another person. First of all,
Or a behavior.
or behavior. Is that really the best way to go about it? We don't think so. And I'm going to give you a very serious example here for a moment. I knew a woman, Martha, many years ago, and this poor young woman, and it was a horrific thing, she was raped. And she was raped going through a park with a deserted, bleak area late at night through this laneway. And the thing is, it happened again in the exact same place. Because she just, I just guess...
Well, we don't want to blame the victim
never,
in any way.
Never.
But there are things that someone can learn from a situation.
Should be red flagging that situation.
So that you don't repeat the same mistake. And now this is obviously, it's hard to call it a mistake because somebody else is attacking her.
Of course.
That's wrong.
But because it was in the exact same spot after dark, alone.
There would have been an opportunity to learn from the first time
it could
and
have
not
been avoided,
at least de-risk the situation, de-emphasize the opportunity for that to happen again.
And let's just
don't put
clarify
yourself in a
again.
position.
I've worked with sexual abuse victims. It's a terrible, terrible thing. We in no way ever blame the victim. We're just talking
100%.
about there's ways we can screw up that make bad things more likely to happen.
Yeah, to use a totally different example, which may be not nearly as emotionally sensitive, is let's say that you're putting a glass in a difficult spot, you fill it with milk, and then oops, you knock it over. You would want to learn from that so you don't make that same mistake again and make a mess on your kitchen floor.
Right. Good decisions are based on experience, and experience is based on poor decisions, right? So we want to make sure that people learn from the past experiences. Now, let's get back to the relationship thing. If you go out with somebody for a period of time, and you have good times and bad times, and Led Zeppelin 1, if all of these things, then things go south, things go sideways.
Yeah.
Use the word.
They go
Brilliant.
sideways.
And it mangles your life.
Mangles your life.
Used it.
Yeah. And
What's
then
the
you
other one?
find
Damn
yourself
it.
sputtering.
Sputtering, thank you.
Out of control.
Sputtering where?
Sputtering in the
In the
sputtery.
sputtery. Yeah.
Sputtering in the
Like
sputtery.
who?
Like Jack the
frickin'
Sputterer.
Sputterer.
Yeah.
Now, when this happens, it's the most ecological thing here is to keep everything you've learned from that relationship, both good and bad.
Yeah.
And the worst thing, I think, would be to forget the entire thing and to lose what we call in NLP the learnings.
Right. And so if we take it back to your example of the woman walking through the park, if she had been hypnotized after the first instance to just forget it ever happened, total amnesia. Okay, now, in a sense, we're killing the opportunity for the learning from that, which would,
Right.
in theory, for most people, cause them to understand, okay, I'm not going to put myself in that risky position
Right.
to reduce the chance of this happening again. That would be a good thing. We don't want that to happen again. Similarly, we don't want to forget about the ex here because, well, there are learnings. There are things that happened in the relationship that maybe you are better
sure.
to learn from to not repeat in your next relationship.
Right. So
right?
all that to say, we would never remove the memory of that person. And remember, too, you've got good memories with that person. That's why you were together in the first place. You weren't drawn to somebody you couldn't stand. I mean, it's not very likely.
Yeah, and it's a good opportunity when someone says, "Oh, this so and so, I wish I had never dated her." Wow. And you can say, "But aren't you glad in a weird kind of way?" Because there are some. It's a nice reframe. It's
I call
hilarious.
it the Brian McDowell intervention.
There are some positive memories to take away from every bad relationship.
There certainly are. And while we're talking about this, think about it. Is it even possible to completely remove the memory of someone from your life? I would think.
Only at a conscious level, like you could maybe have the unconscious decide to keep it from the person's conscious mind.
Right. But it's never going to go completely.
Right. And that would not be ecological necessarily.
Of course not, because even if the unconscious is holding on to it and you're not consciously aware, there's got to be some sort of turmoil there.
Yeah.
And we want people to live lives that are glanative and enjoyable without a lot of stuff under the surface. And none of us get there completely. And we have to continue to grow and change. But when we're thinking in terms of this forgetting a person even existed in your life, the reality is they don't really want to forget that person. They want to feel better.
This is exactly it. That whenever someone says, "Oh, I wish I could just forget about X," in your minds, it's probably worth going, what they really mean is they wish they didn't feel bad about, they wish they felt better about it, discharge the negative emotion, amplify the learnings, and set them on a path towards a future destination that's better.
Better relationships.
And I also want to
healing.
throw in this just before we continue on, because we should probably unpack a little bit more. Well, what can we do instead of the whole forget? How can we depotentiate the negative emotions? So let's go back to that example of someone being a smoker too, and asking, for a hypnotist saying, "Oh, I'll help you out, and I'll have you forget that you were ever a smoker." And similar to the X, what happens when you come out of trance, even if that did happen? Okay, so now here I am. I'm Jack the not smoker anymore, and I'm walking down the street, and my friend Bob shows up, and he goes, "Hey, Chris, how you doing? Here, have a cigarette." And I'm like, "No, I don't smoke." "Yeah, you do. What are you talking about? I've never smoked in my life." "Yeah, we started in grade 9. Don't you remember?" "What are you talking about?" Now he thinks you're freaking nuts, right? So this is not a good way to do it.
I didn't think it was going to go this direction. That's very funny.
You go.
That's very funny. This is back to, Paul Moyer telling me that I gave a speech at Gary Gould's wedding and I wasn't even there. Mike, you were hilarious.
Yeah, you
What
were
did I
totally
say?
there.
Yeah.
So, and the same thing with the ex. If you were even hypnotized to forget about the ex, and let's call her, but you used the name Martha, so we'll just
Let's
use
call
that.
her Voralaya.
Okay, Lorelaya? Voralaya.
Gaitala.
Hey, yeah.
Gaitala.
And your buddy comes up and he goes, "Hey, did Voralaya stop calling you finally?" And you go, Who's that?
Yeah, no, what the hell are you talking
now
about?
you
you fool?
seem
Yeah.
insane.
Yeah.
This is not a good way.
I think we stood on the insanity
Yeah.
button just about long enough because this is going sideways.
Okay.
But here's the thing.
Let's talk about what you can do.
There's so many ways you can deal with this. I want to just right away talk about Freddy Jacquin because he has an intervention. I think it's called The Girl on the Train, just like the movie. And Freddy comes up with these dynamic, amazing hypnotic journeys, like guided imagery.
It's a guided
journeys.
imagery,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's a short one. But it takes the person through a situation where a relationship has ended and they disconnect from it. And I won't go through the whole thing. It's his program, and I think it's just wonderful.
They leave the baggage behind.
Yeah, they get on a
metaphorically.
train, and he's describing all of this, and the ex gets in the train too, and they wind up. They leave, separate the baggage. You thank the person for the good experiences. You say it's over. They leave the train, and you see them standing on the siding as you leave in the train, and you're crying.
No, I'm not crying.
Sobbing, practically sobbing.
For the audio people, this is going to be very funny. Is Mike actually telling the truth
like he
here?
was tearing
You're going to
up.
have to go to the YouTube channel
Funny
and
thing is,
find
I
out.
looked at myself there just to make
Yeah.
sure I didn't look like I was tearing up.
You kind of do.
Thanks.
It's funny.
Just
And-
laughing.
And you're going to find yourself compelled to go to the YouTube channel and watch this on video now so you can determine just the level of honesty that Mike Mandel's using to describe this.
Shut up. So anyway, Freddy's method is fabulous, and it gives people a hypnotic means of disconnecting, putting things in context. And when we deal with a past event, the ones that resonate in our heads that do not get fixed, we're back to amygdala, hippocampus, where new memories are created and consolidated, parahippocampal gyrus, all of these things that consolidate a memory so it fits into the script of our life and makes sense. In other words, fits into our timeline.
Bingo.
And so when that happens, if it hasn't happened, we have to find a way of putting it in the script of our life. And Freddy's amazing protocol does that. It causes it to be rationalized, i.e. become logical, sensible, and over.
Right. So there are lots of ways that we can help someone in hypnosis to depotentiate negative emotions and create a compelling future, create separation from their past situation, and design that empowered future for themselves, right? What are some other things that we can do? Obviously, in terms of designing the future, MINDSCAPING, wonderful protocol for that, right? But why don't we have you, while you pretend to be silent and in thought here. This is so
I'm thinking
funny.
back to how well I worded all that neuroscience stuff.
I know,
Just
yeah.
I'm going to listen to myself say it a lot.
Let's talk just quickly about the two components here. So one is the discharge the negative emotions so that someone immediately feels better.
Right.
Or at least less bad, right? Less bad equals better. Less negative is more positive by
Definitely,
definition.
yeah. It's not, it could be neutral. Who knows?
So we want to depotentiate the negative crap that they're holding on to, and then we want to empower their future.
Okay,
so
well,
let's just talk briefly about those two things.
Yeah, well, let's talk about direct suggestion in hypnosis. It's the most obvious choice right away.
Right.
Put someone in a powerful trance, give them all the suggestions that you've learned from the experience, and all you've learned makes you happy now. And you're a
Yeah.
stronger person because of everything you've learned, and you're able to mentally disconnect, and you're moving on, and you feel good about moving on, and you
Yes.
release that person
And
with no bad feelings.
Yeah, and temporal aspects to the suggestions. And you
Long
now
word.
realize that those feelings that used to bother you are in
Back
the
then.
past
Yeah,
and
yeah,
they
yeah.
don't matter anymore because you're focused on your future and you feel good about the learnings from that relationship, et cetera, et
Now.
cetera.
Yeah, and the
Right.
beauty of it is that with using the DSIH, direct suggestion in hypnosis, it is addressing both aspects.
Right.
It is, well, it's preserving the learnings. It's turning down the negative emotions. It's actually three things, and elevating the positive emotions and the learnings from it that
Right.
they've got now. So yeah, that's one way. But I'm thinking we mentioned timeline.
Yeah.
Timelines are a great way to do it. I practiced Tad James, the late Tad James, great trainer, his timeline therapy. We don't teach it because I'm trained in it, but I'm not qualified to teach it. But regular NLP timelines that it all came out of first through Richard
Right.
Bandler, I believe, is a great way to deal with stuff too. Because when you elicit someone's timeline, find out where the past is for them, where's the future for them, where's the present. You've got an either in time or through time timeline, and you can take them back to all the events in the past when they were with that person. Let's say the ones that didn't work out, the arguments they used to have, all of these, and let the unconscious mind just drop those down in the timeline so they're still there, but they're not visible.
Yeah.
There's all kinds of ways of doing it. You can make them fainter or...
And I think in our NLP Essentials,
Yes.
do we teach Walking with Grace and Power, the NLP?
I don't know.
It's in your, well, either way,
think
it's
it
in
is.
your peak performance audio. So
Yes,
it is
it
taught there.
is.
And I'm pretty sure it's in the NLP Essentials course, which is on our website. But that's another way
Great John
that
Grinder
if you
method.
want to take all of the negative crap, all of the way that you were feeling, or actually they're associating into it to start. You're starting, getting into that feeling state that's negative and all that crap, and you stand in a particular spot and you now step out and you leave all that crap
just
there.
Like that. Yep.
Then you get yourself into a wonderful empowered state. You couldn't do this on yourself if you can't get coached through it by someone else.
It's just ADAC again. Right. And what you're actually doing is just do repetition until you've got
and then you're walking, you're taking that spot where you've spatially anchored all the junk, you're getting into a great empowered state, and you're walking through it until you
not
feel
yet. Like you get in the empowered state walking
Yeah,
first.
Exactly. Back and forth walking, and then you start just blasting through it, and you're checking, and if you're the coach, you're checking that the client is doing this correctly. You're looking for congruence, or the feeling of congruence, that when you step through that, there's no shred of
right, and each component, what you saw, what you heard, what you felt, going through them systematically, and then finally standing in there in your empowered state and overwhelming the negative and checking it.
So we've got, you think about it, right? Your hypnotic tools you've got. So now we talked about guided imagery. We talked about NLP timelines, or Tad James' version of timeline therapy.
Let's add future pacing here,
Future pacing.
Which everything we're doing, like to clear up something like a relationship that went sideways and mangled your life. Whichever way we're doing it, we want to check our work. And a great way is future pacing. You're saying, so the next time you're out and about and you go somewhere, son of Canadians out and about, wherever you go, if you run into your ex a few months from now, what will happen? What will you feel like? And I'm calibrating the person. I want them to say, nothing will happen. I wish him well.
And the next time your best friend asks you about her,
you'll say,
what'll that be like?
It was fun at times, but we both
parted
moved
ways,
apart, and it's okay. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that, we've looked at the Freddy's girl on the train thing. We've looked at we haven't looked at MINDSCAPING. We've looked at timelines. We're talking about the importance of preserving everything they've learned, the NLP term of preserving the learnings. MINDSCAPING to get over an X, I think, could be a very, very powerful way.
Right. Once you depotentiate, then, although you can actually use the Mindscape to depotentiate the negative,
can.
But it's really about building that pathway to the future.
And I'm thinking also, what is directly behind them is going to be linked to whatever you're doing escape on. So I would, if the person is in their past, like I worked with one woman who had some problems with her family, all her brothers. And when she looked in the past, you never call it the past, they look behind you. She said, it was an island and they were all on this island. And I said, well, just put your hand out and push it further back. So she did, and you could see the relief on her face.
Oh, yeah.
And then when she checked later, she said she just saw the one brother just standing there looking baffled because she was no longer under their power.
I think Mindscaping would be a fantastic tool to help people deal with separating themselves from that crap and then moving forward. Now, I want to give a shout out to one of our Storm Riders, one of our Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy members, Josh. He joined the Academy, and then he came on to our Facebook group and put a video, and he said, hey, it's the month of, this is February right now, 2024, when we're recording this, and at the beginning of the month, Josh put a video in the community, you've seen it, and he says, hey, I want to challenge myself to do like 30 Mindscaping sessions this month. So if you want to do one with me, just DM me and we'll queue it up and we'll do it. It was something like February 20th. He posts an update and he says, so I've already done 30, but there's still time left in the month. I want to do more. This guy's awesome. I love seeing people take action like that.
This is it.
It is not a difficult protocol to learn.
No.
And once you learn it, and
provided
then
you stay with it.
And then you decide, you know what? I'm just going to do this a whole bunch of times. And what better way to practice it than to not only use the people who are in your everyday life, but if you come to a community like the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy and say, hey guys, I want to practice this. You got any stuff you want to work on? I'll do a Mindscaping session with you. And you've now done 30 of them. Soon you're on your way to being one of the best Mindscapers in the world.
Yeah. That's true. Practice makes perfect. And again, if you do study Mindscaping with us, either separately as the product we have or part of our academy, it'd be great that you realize the importance. Let me start that line again. It's important that you realize that you must follow the protocol. People try to tinker with it. People try to do it on themselves. We just ran into that online. You can't do it on yourself. But when you said you'd be good at it, doing 30 times. What about Piers Day, our friend? He's done over 1,000 Mindscapes.
Oh, for sure.
He's a professional therapist in Britain, works with National Health and so on. Amazing. So that's a great way because you can also remove blockages to healing with it. You can push the person further away. You can amplify your own power.
And you need to have a good foundational skill set, which we teach that in the academy. And once you have that, you only need maybe a handful of tools. You only need a few. I like how James Tripp calls it back pocket methods, back
the
pocket
ones you
tools.
can carry
You
with
need
you
a
anywhere.
few. If you have mindscaping, if you have direct suggestion in hypnosis, if you have a few inductions, the element induction, maybe a couple of rapid inductions, an instant induction.
Sure.
If you have a guided imagery method that
six-step
you
tapping
like,
method.
6-step tapping, kind of like ADAC, obviously,
ADAC, sure.
which is activate, dissociate, associate, collapse. It's what we call John Overder's meta pattern. The official name is the meta pattern, and
I
it's an
thought
awesome
he called
pattern.
our ADAC.
Ah, that's right.
pattern.
We just like ADAC because it's an acronym and it sounds like AC/DC, ADAC.
Pretty close, yeah.
So if you have those tools, my goodness, you are off to the races being able to help people.
Well put, metaphor
Mm-hmm.
used there as well. Also, if you're going to use something like mindscaping, and if you do remove someone from your life in the future,
Backfill.
you're going to set up a monument of some kind to memorialize what you've done.
Mm-hmm.
That way, it never comes back. You take something out, and we're going to get to backfilling. Maybe
Yeah,
let's
that's
just talk
actually
about
right
some.
now. We're going to
Well, let's
spend
go
the
through
rest of the
quickly.
episode talking about it.
If you use the 6-step, top of the head, front of the head, these 6 spots that I taught and teach to depotentiate negative emotions, take it to 0 every
Mm-hmm.
time. If you're in our academy, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and then backfill with the triple warmer.
So let's spend.
Talk about
We
backfill.
have like 5 minutes left of content, I think, before we need to end this episode anyway.
fantastic. We have
so
it's way too much stuff.
Why don't we talk about the second thing we promised, which is we'll
Yes.
talk about backfilling. And generally, this idea of backfilling comes from what you just said. Whenever you remove some negative, when you discharge the negative emotions, now there's space to add new positive stuff, which is like building that empowering future. We got the term from Carl Smith. We've been doing this intuitively for forever, really.
Right,
people
right.
always do. You throw away old clothes, and what do you naturally find yourself
Go buy
doing?
new ones.
Going and shopping, right? Or you
Yeah.
pull weeds out of your garden and you go, oh, there's room for some new flowers here. You know,
Right,
every
right.
spring, my wife spends an absurd amount of money on plants.
How much?
And a lot. I don't know.
What kind of plants does
she
she
won't
buy?
tell me. She won't tell me how much. It's
better
more
if
than
you don't know.
I would spend. It's more than the
she's
$0
planting in the
I would spend.
plantery, though,
Yeah,
without a
exactly. So anyway, Carl, I said that weird. When Carl came to Toronto and he taught the kinetic shift method, which is another awesome method.
Terrific method. Great for this.
The recordings are in the Academy of Carl
They are.
teaching kinetic
He's our
shift
friend.
in Toronto.
Just like
he
Freddy.
was the one who mentioned backfilling, and we thought, what a fantastic phrase, and we've adopted it ever since. Thank you, Carl Smith. So let's talk about backfilling. How does it work? How do you use it in hypnosis or in everyday life?
Okay, well, in any representation of anything that you have in your mind, first of all, let's turn it into a psychological thing. If you take something negative out, as Aristotle said, that the world abhors a vacuum, was it?
The world abhors a vacuum. That was the quote.
So vacuum always wants to be filled with something. So we pull something out, even psychologically, bad feelings, whatever. We believe you should backfill, like Carl says, put something positive in to hold that spot now. So nothing bad can get back in if you've got a sufficiently robust positive state there holding the spot.
I like your reference to the world abhors a vacuum, because a vacuum is an absence.
Nature abhors a vacuum. That's the
Nature,
proper
that's it. Not the
Aristotle
world.
quote.
Yeah,
Sorry,
nature.
Aristotle.
There you go. So if you make a vacuum and you break the seal, pressure, everything will hit homeostasis. It will go back to equilibrium.
Yes.
Now, do you want that equilibrium to happen on its own and take away some bad stuff and then have more bad stuff just sort of sneak in?
My guess would be,
Or
no.
maybe take that vacuum and put it in a positive environment, so when you break the seal and the sputtering starts and things go in sideways, it's good stuff. There you go.
He's right, damn him. Well done, well done. So, hey, we're not going to get to the RAS stuff today. I mean, we're absolutely not. But just, you know what? We're out of time.
We are pretty much out of time,
why
but
don't you
it's
give us-
okay. We give it a couple more minutes on backfilling just to really close
Okay,
the loop on
okay,
this, and then
again.
we'll give you an empowering question and we'll end it.
But again, you said it's anything in your life. Like if you lose somebody in your life, God forbid, someone important, even as a kid, when my friends would move away,
Yeah.
you start looking for someone to fill that role, especially if it's a very close friend, right? Because otherwise you have this sense of emptiness. and
This is a great idea. So maybe last
is.
couple of minutes, what we can do is just let's brainstorm. Situation, how would you backfill?
Okay.
So that, because
I'm gonna
think,
give you the situation.
backfill can be everyday life. And then as a hypnotherapist, if somebody comes in with one of these everyday problems, you can hypnotically help them backfill. So, okay.
Right. Now that's interesting because let's say somebody has, here's a classic example. Derek Balmer said, my mentor said that a lot of people who were in the AA program, they weren't in AA it wasn't the drinking that they enjoyed.
Social life.
Yeah, it was the camaraderie of their fellowship of friends who they only see in the bar, like Cheers. So
Right.
it's their social life. And if they quit drinking and they don't have that social life, they're going to go back to it. But what do? A lot of people go into Alcoholics Anonymous. They get a new social life.
Yeah.
So instead of drinking in a bar, they're drinking coffee and smoking in a church basement. But you
Yeah.
still have the social life. And I was thinking, when I moved multiple times as a kid, because my parents used to move like Jack the frickin' Mover, I just wake up every day and think, are we going to be moving in the movery today? Because it was likely. I'm changing friends all the time.
Yeah.
Norm Yates, my best friend, even though he pushed my head into a tree. All these different things. Kindergarten, Heather Gay Atwood, my first girlfriend. Oh, no, she was grade 1. Angela Cowerbisher. I don't know what her name was, but I thought it was Cowerbisher. In kindergarten, she moved. I was freaking devastated. Now, I didn't have a new girlfriend. I was 5 years old. But we looked for something to fill that vacuum of the same genre, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Yes. So if you are, and you can obviously fill with something similar, you can chunk up and go, what was that an example of?
Sure.
It was a
Nice, that's
relationship.
good.
It was somebody that I got to talk with. Okay, well, if you used to talk to, in fact, we had a member in our community that lost his father fairly recently
sure.
and described his father as one of his best friend. He lost his dad, and that's horrible. What are you going to do? What's that an example of? Somebody you really trust and love talking to. You can go out there and find. It'll take a while. No mistake, right? But who else can you begin to formulate close relationships with? Relationships with that you trust, that you care about, that you can interact with.
That's a really good point, Chris. And I don't mean to put a down on things, but this is absolutely serious. As you know, my wife's brother just passed away tragically. Good guy. Chris had met him. We hung out with him last year at my cabin with Michael C. Anthony. His name was Bruce, and Bruce is on vacation in Cuba with his wife, and he drowned in the ocean. Must have been a riptide. Really, really sad. Here's the thing, bro. I've been thinking about this a lot because Bruce, on the little road at Bob Lake Minden, where our cabin is that you've been many times, Bruce was a central fixture there.
Yeah.
He was always either tinkering with his boat or cutting someone's grass. He was visible all the time. He was the helping guy. Everybody's saying Bob Lake is going to have a totally different vibe without him. How do you feel that? You can't always do it.
Yeah, you can't
just say,
necessarily.
can you move up there?
So maybe that's where, maybe we'll come back in the next episode and talk about the reticular activating system.
Good point.
Because if you're RAS, what your brain is tuned to be thinking about all the time is, this absence of Bruce, what can we shift to instead? The presence of something else. What can we start to notice instead of the missing?
That's a good point.
Right. So it's maybe the backfilling isn't even of a thing, it's your attention.
That's very interesting.
Ooh, there we go.
We will be coming back on this. We'll go back to the RAS and some other stuff, regardless of what else we look at on the next one.
So if our RAS is tuned to thinking about the RAS, we'll come back to it in the next episode, 251. Otherwise, we'll totally forget and we'll move on to something else.
So meta.
Yeah, there we go.
Wow. Okay, Chris, give us the empowering question.
Here's your empowering question. What will I focus on today? Ooh, there it is, focus. And every day in order to switch on my reticular activating system so I'll more frequently notice the important prompts that it's giving me to continue to improve my life.
Nice. Very good.
Can you tell we designed that one before we decided to skip that topic?
Yes.
There we go.
It's true.
Well, we will come back to it.
It applies because you did touch upon the topic sufficiently to enable this to apply. Brilliant. I'm going to give you a Metafive, one better than a metaphor, and this was the show at Meadowvale. And I did something new in that show. This is in the 1980s. And
Hypnosis show?
Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a school graduation. So from somewhat Mississauga way. And high school grad and all the grade 13, grade 12 kids, 13 in Canada, now it's something else. But lots of kids, teenage kids, great kids, all dressed to the nines. We do a hypnosis show in this hotel. And I did something I've never done before. There was a guy on the end, really friendly guy. You know what he looked like? Our excellent friend, Asad Mekki. He had that big smile and everything. Nice kid. And he was sitting there, and I sent people back to the audience, and other people were in trances, and he was a great subject but didn't know. And I said, okay, well, you're wide awake, right? He said, yeah. And I said, so you can go back to the audience. As he started to move, I said, or stay there. And I analog marked, stay there. And he went and sat back. And I said, stay in your chair. And he nods, and I said, in the audience. And he starts to get up. And I said, whenever you go back later. And he went, yeah. I said, but what are you doing in that chair? And he starts to get up, and I said, where you belong. And he sits there. It went on. People were just freaking howling. I keep switching him to going back to not going back just by asking him and making these stupid points. I even said, but not yet. Now. I said, go back to the audience. Not yet. Now. He starts to get up. It's a great time to sit there. So he sits. I mean, It was a key moment.
Confusion.
I don't
Oh.
think I ever did it again.
I love it.
Well,
Thanks.
okay, I've just lost interest.
There
in
you
it, so
go.
let's keep going.
Brilliant. Thanks, everybody, for listening. This has been Brain Software episode
250
celebration. Yay. Awesome. Make sure you check out our website. It's at MikeMandelHypnosis.com. You can check out our mailing list, our blog, the free stuff that we've got for you, the events that are coming up, the Mike Mandel Hypnosis Academy. It's totally free to get started, which is pretty awesome. And we'll say just while you're listening to this, if you're listening to this, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. And if you're watching it on YouTube, please click that subscribe button. And then, since we do put out videos fairly regularly, ring that bell so YouTube will notify when we post new videos.
Brilliant.
We'll see you in the next episode. Thanks again, and good night.
Make me crank.